That's it.
So are we starting?
Yeah.
Hey Ed,
Hey, Mark, how's it going?
it's going well. I been here since about 5 o'clock, and I've been
5 o'clock?
I've been here since 5 o'clock,
Oh
and
my
I've been
gosh.
preparing my thoughts and ideas.
That's amazing. Well, I'm glad we get to share them with the group.
Exactly. So I don't know if you know this, Ed, but I have struggled my whole life with being overweight. It's you remember me in high school, and
I do.
that was quite it wasn't big, but I wasn't small,
Mhm.
and so it plagued me emotionally.
Sure.
So and in my younger years, I listened to the rhetoric that was at the time, that some things were good and some things were bad. There's the health message that we have with Ellen White, that talks about good foods and bad foods. You shouldn't eat red meat and stuff like that. But I wasn't like gung ho on the health message or anything.
Mhm.
But mainly, I wasn't worried about food. I was worried because I live in a country where we have plenty of food.
We do.
We can go to the grocery store, and unless there's a hurricane, apparently, around the corner,
Yes.
the shelves are full of food.
We do not live in a food desert. as it's
Food
called.
desert. Yeah, we are not lacking in nutrients.
Sure.
So I've never had food insecurities,
Mhm.
which is sad. But I have had weight insecurities, and my attempt to remedy this has gone through a bunch of cycles.
Mm.
My weight maybe at one point has been down, at my adult weight, probably been down to about 174 pounds, and as much as 260.
Oh, wow.
So I have had a large swing. That's not
Yeah.
1 week, I'm one weight.
I would not imagine that
Yeah,
you can manage that.
and
in 1 week.
over from age 25 to probably age 40, I've had the
Okay.
large swings in my weight. I try to keep consistent. I think ultimately keeping consistent weight, even if I'm overweight, was the healthiest. But at some point, I said even carrying some weight has caused me to take blood pressure medicine.
Mm.
I don't think it had anything to do with my rheumatology disease, being lupus or anything like that. But I feel like my greatest failure in my life, the thing that weighs on me the most, is my weight. Be as it may, we don't know if that's really true, but hey, might as well try. It's, might as well get rid of these weight issues
Mhm.
once and for all. So I've been searching high and low YouTube videos. Maybe that's not the best source, but I led upon some ideas. What causes me to gain weight? Why am I consistently at 220 pounds today?
Mhm.
Not today, but in today's timeline. Why is 220 always the weight I'm usually coming back to? And I found some answers. One is I have a programmed position in my brain, the part that I have no control over, because there's a bunch of that part, that says that this weight is the weight I should be no matter what I do. And I was like, well, okay, where did that weight come from? Why can't I change it? Because I tell you what, there are diets that have worked. There are also the same diets that fail.
Mhm.
So all diets work. Let me be very clear. All diets work. All diets fail.
Makes sense.
All diets work. All diets fail. Now, our friends on the internet may be like, yeah, I know. I was like, but if you change your lifestyle, okay, we're not talking about lifestyle. We're talking about diets,
Mhm.
specifically diets. This is what we're talking about. So if I go to Weight Watchers and they're like, okay, these are the foods you should eat. We have some foods for you. In 6 months, I'm going to lose 40 pounds. Absolutely. 40 pounds. 6 months later, I bet you I put that 40 pounds on. Consistently, every human in the Western world will consistently put on weight after they've taken it off. And why is that? Because there's something in our brain, part of the brain that does the, we can talk about the parts, you know, there's like a, it's the monkey
More like
brain
the
or
monkey
the,
brain, but
yeah. Right.
not the intelligent part,
Right,
not
not
the
the
smart thinking
right.
part,
Not the smart,
more of the
yeah.
kind of gut instinct,
Right.
kind of autonomous part.
What's the one with the A word, starts with an A, but it doesn't sound like an A? Not the medulla, but the
Amygdala? But
amygdala?
that's about fear and anger, though.
Okay, well then there's another part.
Yeah.
There's a regulatory. So anyways,
Limbic system?
the limbic system.
Ah.
Yes,
Yeah.
the limbic functioning system. That part of it, you know, it's regulatory, and so it says, hey, you know, we like this weight, and it's like, yeah, okay,
Can I interject a question?
yes, go ahead.
So is it the weight or is it the fat muscle ratio that it's trying to hit? Because like, for example, like if your weight was 220 and you lost a bunch of fat weight
Mhm.
without gaining muscle, and then you were down at like 210 or something, let's say, or 200, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden your body says, wait, I should be 220 again. Could you trick it and get back to 220 by building muscle and then not regain the fat?
No,
No,
No.
it's about the percentage of the
Yeah.
fat muscle ratio. Okay.
so as I've done the research, I found this book called The Obesity Code. It's written by Jason Fung. He's unlocking the secrets of weight loss.
Okay.
And some of the things he's broken down, he uses human studies to prove these facts that he has discovered.
Okay.
So the story goes, two cows were talking about the recent study on lions, and they said, one cow said, lions should eat meat, so I guess we should eat meat. And the cows started eating meat and they died.
Right.
So then two lions were talking about the recent study on cows and how they eat grass. And so, the two lions started eating grass and the lions died. So the moral of the story is, we're not lions, we're not cows, we're not sheep, we're not mice. So why would we take studies that are done on mice when we should take studies on humans? We're humans. Now there are similarities. I grant you there are similarities between mice and humans and stuff like that. But human studies are more accurate than interrelated, studies. That's the moral of that.
So what's a counterexample? Like what kind of a study would have been done on mice that would be applicable to my diet? Just for everyone else who has no idea. I mean, I know perfectly well what you're talking about. I just was hoping you might explain for everyone else.
Well, I mean, there are studies that are done on mice, but what we're talking about is the book only uses human studies.
Okay.
We could reference later on other study, like a study that was done recently or in the last 20 years on on the sweetener, the artificial sweetener.
That kind of stuff.
Saccharin.
So specifically targeted foods.
Right,
stuff.
specifically targeted, like that particular study, I believe everyone quotes is saying, well, of course I won't drink Diet Coke because it causes cancer.
Right.
Well, there's other reasons why you probably shouldn't drink Diet Coke, but cancer is probably your least of your worries since no one has been, it's not been directly
I
connected
see.
by a study
It caused cancer in
in
rats,
rats.
but not in humans.
Right, the sweetener that's,
Yeah,
what
right.
is it? It's
saccharin,
saccharin or,
yeah, whatever it is.
whatever it is. So that's an example of, you know, we could say it might, but we could pretty much say it does when we use humans as our quote unquote guinea pigs.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I already knew that.
Okay.
I appreciate that
We're just, yeah.
you informed me.
We're
That's
informed. We're informed. So let's see. So I wanted to go over the fact that we have some bad news.
Bad news.
We have some bad news.
Is that the part of our brains that makes us want to?
No, that's good news because indirectly we have control over that. Later on we'll go over that. So some bad news is that on a scale of, you know, on these percent, we will throw out percentages. So scientists did studies in Denmark with families that had adopted kids.
Mm-hmm.
And they also, and Denmark, the reason they use Denmark is because Denmark's really good at tracking adoption and families that, you know, children that were separated from their parents for adoptive reasons. So they have a really good basis for information in Denmark to say, okay, here's a child and here's his parents, but this child lives in these parents' house and these parents are here. So they're trying to correlate genetics.
Okay.
And they found that if this child was with genetically disposition skinny parents,
Mm-hmm.
the child's weight, whatever the weight of the adopted parents, did not in any way help or hinder any effects. So the theory of nature versus nurture.
Okay, so it's saying it was all nature.
It's all nature.
Okay.
It's all nature.
Got it.
Overweight children come from overweight
So
parents.
your weight propensity,
Right.
100% nature.
Actually, it's 70%. So you have, so they found that 70% of the time, most, 70% is most. So I was going to use the example. I said, Ed, okay, everybody, if everybody was here, I said, Ed, I need you to get 100% of this quiz.
Well, but you already answered over half the questions.
Right. So it's really
And
kind of.
A lot of those are wrong.
Right.
There's one of them that's right.
Exactly. Few of them is right.
Few of them are right.
But you can't answer. You need to get a grade on that. That's passing. But you can't because 70% of the questions already been answered.
I see. So you're saying that the odds are stacked against us.
The odds are stacked against us.
Ah, okay.
So first off, we have to accept that weight loss, weight gain, and this is what I've come to, is not my fault. I have no control over it. And I think a lot of people come to that conclusion, or they go throughout their day and they're like, man, I'm just going to exercise, and that's really going to solve it. What I do, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't think you can pass that test.
Unless I can change the answers.
Unless you can change the answers, you can't pass that test, right? So the biggest issue is we have 30% control over this issue, which means that at the end of the day, we really don't have control over the issue.
Right.
But what is it that we do have control over? All right, so that's a really good example. I feel like that's a really good. I didn't find this in the book.
Outstanding example.
I didn't find it in the book.
You came up with this all by yourself.
All by myself.
This is an amazing example. Just so everyone knows, Mark went and filled in almost all of these answers wrong. Okay, so I only have the opportunity to get like 6 of them right, and other than that, I have no say in what grade I get on this quiz.
It's pretty much so. When we consider, so the epiphany is when we consider our ability to control what we're doing, a lot of it's out of our hands already. So that lowers the bar literally. When someone walks in and says, I'm obese and it's all my fault. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not your fault. You know, it's like, just say it. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not, you know, anyway. So we've seen,
Positive affirmation.
yes. So that's the good. So the 30%, what can we do? What is the overall solution here? So maybe ask ourselves, besides genetics, which is 70% of the problem or 70% of the solution, because I have some quizzes in here you probably pass, even though, because most of them, the answers are correct.
Oh,
Some of
I
the
just got a bad one?
You just got a bad one.
Oh, even better example.
Even better example.
Oh, so like the genes is like some
Yeah.
people's predisposition might be better than
Right.
mine. I got
Exactly.
screwed because of all the wrong answers.
Right. So what we do have control over? What we have control over is what we put in our bodies.
Okay.
What we do with this food. So if we had to add a scale here, and we had three, the overall, if I had a bar graph and we said the overall,
You've been here since 5. Why didn't you draw? a
oh,
bar
I'll draw it.
No,
Okay.
don't waste time now.
Okay, so there's 3 things that the body does. It regulates. It has a basal metabolic rate.
Okay.
All right. It has food that we put in,
Mhm.
and we have this little thing up here that's exercise. Like that little section is what we can actually extra do.
Mhm.
And let's be clear, exercise is when we get our heart rate up past a certain point where and maintain it or fluctuate it.
Oh, okay.
You know, we fluctuate that heart, you know, because people do exercise and get it higher or lower.
Oh, okay.
But during a sustained level of exercise, we do cause our caloric higher burning in that moment.
Sure.
But herein lies the problem. If we exercise, we get hungrier.
That's
So our
true.
basal rate, let's say we're trying to lose weight.
Mhm.
So our basal rate stays the same, or we assume that it stays the same.
Mhm.
All right. Our caloric intake now needs to go higher
It's true.
because we're hungrier.
Mhm.
And that means that we got to exercise more. But we only have a little bit that we can actually influence with the exercise. Because and I'm not saying people eat food and then they figure out how many calories they're supposed to burn. You can probably figure that out. But what I'd like to mention here is calories in, calories out are independent of each other. That is an assumption. That is a particular assumption. Calories in, calories out are independent of each other.
Okay.
And they aren't, actually.
Oh,
I know.
You're saying that people make that assumption, but that's incorrect.
Correct.
Interesting.
So let me clarify with that. Okay, so calories in, calories out, calories in. If I eat 5,000 calories today, calories out still stays the same.
Right.
Studies have shown that when you eat more calories, your body has a tendency to burn more calories. You will, a gentleman, all right, this is so cool.
Yeah, because when I eat a lot, I tend to just sit down and not burn more.
So this workout guy, he decided that he would debunk he works out, and he said, okay, I'm going to eat a 5,000 calorie diet. I'm going to literally prove that I'm going to gain weight because I'm going to eat more than my metabolic rate requires. And the weight gain that he experienced was momentary. So in about 2-3 weeks, it leveled off, and he was able to burn that 5,000 calories. What we're finding, what the studies find, is that metabolism is a multifaceted issue. Metabolism is a great word to describe 20, 30 processes in the body. Heat production. I got this. This is amazing. Here we go. So, what determines energy output of the system? Suppose we consume 2,000 calories of chemical energy food in one day. What is the metabolic fate of those 2,000 calories? Possibilities for those uses include heat production, new protein production, new bone production, new muscle production, cognition, increased heart rate, increased stroke volume in the heart, exercise, physical exertion, detoxification in the liver, detoxification in the kidney, digestion, pancreas and bowels, breathing, exertion, intestines and colon, and fat production.
So you're saying it's important that we eat food?
No.
Oh.
Yes.
It does all those things.
Right.
The food we eat.
The food that we eat, no matter what it is, is used by the body in a very systematic way.
Sure.
And anything extra, it says, hey, let's save it for later, or it exits the body.
Okay.
So, but most of it's used or saved.
Okay.
For all of these functions, and all these functions can be reduced or increased based on the amount that it gets. But let me put it this way: it's going to do these whether you put food in your body or not.
Right. And the types of food that you eat can make certain of those processes easier or more difficult, right?
Right.
Yeah. So like certain foods, it's really easy for the body to use that to do X. But
So
other types, it might be harder for it to use it for that.
Right. So let's talk about that.
Okay.
There are 3 types of nutrients.
Okay.
Macronutrients.
Yes.
Macronutrients is fats, proteins,
Yep.
and carbohydrates.
Right.
In the world that we live in, if you walk into a grocery store, 90% of it is the middle of the store, like all that processed. Well, besides all this stuff, if it's food, it's probably in the middle of the store. That you're not the outskirts. The vegetables, the fish, the meat, the milk.
They
the
keep
eggs.
all of the processed foods in the middle.
At least I know that Publix does that. I don't. Back in the day, Bilo used to not do that.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking like Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, they all do that.
So I'm not proposing that there's a theory that you should only eat the foods on the outside, It's a great idea, but there's some errors. There's some errors in that assumption. First off, sometimes that outer aisle has fruit juices on it, which can be, be high in sugar, and we'll go over that in a little bit. But those 3 macronutrients are required for, and they do different things. Like, so let's say, the fat is good. Fats are good because there's it's a high caloric amount of food. But let me just say this: calories. This is the thing that we need to debunk. Calories in, calories out. They are not independent of each other.
Right.
And secondly, you can't use that as a if you eat all carbohydrates. That's for instance. If you eat all carbohydrates, no fats, no proteins, you will, and you keep that calorie at a certain level, 1,200 calories, your body, you can still gain weight. You can still, because it's not about calories in, calories out.
So earlier when you were talking about how your body will burn more calories if you eat more calories,
Right.
were you referring more not to human intervention, but more about like the internal metabolic functions in the body somehow accelerate and adapt to burn more of what you've taken in because
Yes.
you've taken an extra?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I misunderstood initially, but now.
Okay, good.
I get it.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Because it can be confused. That can be, okay.
It's because of the way you were saying it in relation to like a study or something. You're saying the study has shown that people burn more calories or something like that. And so I was thinking like, I ate a lot, so
But to
now I'm gonna
increase,
exercise.
you can increase caloric burning, basal metabolic rate, because basal is based on these functions, all those
Okay.
functions that I talked about.
Uh-huh.
You can increase caloric burning by increasing your food intake. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to gain weight. It just means that you literally are going to burn more calories on a regular basis. But that basal metabolic rate can actually
But your
increase.
net change is really zero.
Yeah, your net change, your weight net change could be zero.
Okay.
So, but that's really, it really has to do with what we're getting to is that weight gain has to do with a hormone response. So, and there are tons of hormones. Hormones are the things that your body uses to regulate.
Mm-hmm.
Hormone gets sent out, something in the body does something. So there's a couple things I can make, we can make people gain weight very easily. And the medical field knows exactly how to make people gain weight. One, and there's two drugs. There's insulin and there's prednisone.
Okay.
So I used to take prednisone.
Mm-hmm.
One time I was in the hospital, they had me on a really high dose of prednisone. And I gained a lot of weight, my face was round.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, yeah, we know that it's going to do it, but once you come off of it, it's going to come down.
You know what they always say? Like that they put all these extra hormones into like meats and stuff to fatten them up and make them gain weight.
Yeah. So maybe
Tricky.
there might be a reason not to eat meat. If those hormones, if those hormones are still present in the food that you're eating.
Exactly. Right. That's what I was thinking.
So you have to, you can either assume that all meat has hormones in it,
Mm-hmm.
or you can
do your homework.
Yeah. So that's very.
I didn't mean to sidetrack. I was just putting the pieces
exactly.
together.
So then insulin, type 1 and type 2 diabetics.
Mm-hmm.
So before insulin was invented, before we discovered, before the modern era, when
Before we
insulin
could make fake
insulin
Okay.
and injected into people that have
Right.
type 1 diabetes.
Okay.
Type 1 is the
From
one
birth.
where the pancreas doesn't work, or the what's the organ? Pancreas.
Liver?
No, the liver, pancreas. Yeah, both. Whichever,
Kidneys?
whatever
Okay.
organ doesn't, it produces the insulin naturally in the body.
Oh, okay.
When that function shuts down,
Mm-hmm.
no matter how much a type 1 diabetic eats, they will not gain weight. So they will when they onset of type 1 diabetes, like it occurs in their body, and they're unable to no matter how much they eat, they can eat 5, 10, 20, they cannot gain weight. It's impossible for a type 1 diabetic.
Because the hormone isn't getting produced.
Right, correct.
Oh, interesting.
So when we give type 1 and type 2 diabetics insulin, mostly in type 2 diabetics, because their pancreas is shut down. I believe it is the pancreas. When their pancreas has shut down, because of whatever reason, and type 2,
Mhm.
they also gain weight. So we can make people gain weight. We just give them insulin.
Sure.
We can make people gain weight in other ways. So the hormone insulin is one of the major hormones in our body that causes weight gain.
Okay.
And of course, we go back to genetics. Hey, maybe some people produce more insulin than others.
Right.
So really, it's not really naturally.
I mean, that would be the
Right.
cause for like genetically, I guess, genetic diabetes, right? Because like type 1 is genetic. right?
Genetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then type 2 is
How do you get it?
well, you get it from usually being stressed,
Oh.
having a stressed out pancreas.
Oh,
And so
okay.
then that pancreas shuts down,
I see.
and now, yeah. So something that book talks about is called insulin resistance.
Okay.
So over time, humans' bodies get resistant to hormones.
Mhm.
You have so many of those hormones in your body running around, so much that the body's just like, well, we're getting pinged so much, we're going to start ignoring this. And so as time goes on, the hormones start shutting down.
Mhm.
The hormone receptors stop accepting new signals. Someone has pressed the button,
Mhm.
and after 20 times, someone's going to start ignoring that. It's the
Right.
same scenario where many hormone responses. So when we get overflooded with insulin, something has to not accept those signals from then on.
Okay.
And the good thing is that insulin is not a long-lasting hormone in the body. Like it goes away pretty quickly.
Okay.
But if it's constantly dinging, like if you're eating foods that are high in high in insulin production, then of course even with that reduction, your body's gonna start resisting that response.
Mhm.
And so what they see is with insulin resistance comes, overweightness.
But if you're resistant,
Right.
are you resistant to processing the insulin? Or are
Right.
you resistant to having the insulin?
You're resistant to
Okay.
processing.
So that means there's excess insulin, which means you gain weight.
Right.
Okay. got it.
Exactly. So we got over those things. Okay, so basal metabolic. So remember, number 2, the second assumption is basal metabolic rate is stable. We know it fluctuates.
Okay.
We know it fluctuates. Like you can, and this is in the studies where it's like you can go on a website and be like, well, what's your basal metabolic rate? Okay, well, person that's overactive, super active, and sedentary. Well, we'll make assumptions and we'll assume that your basal metabolic rate, but they don't. That it makes a lot of assumptions.
Okay.
And so when you make some assumptions about things, usually you're wrong. And so you started off with the wrong theory in the beginning.
Right.
So you're not gonna do well in the end. The answer's, if the first answer is wrong, then the last answer is probably gonna be wrong as well. All right. Assumption 3, we exert conscious control over calories in.
Okay.
So we assume that when we're home, when we're gonna eat only 3 times a day.
We're gonna eat what we choose.
We're gonna eat what we choose.
And that's our assumption.
That's our
Which,
assumption.
following the pattern, is wrong.
Well,
I take it.
you're the only one here I can ask.
Okay.
Have you eaten when you were bored?
Probably, but I think that's not something.
Do you
that I
run a
typically
kitchen closed house?
closed?
You run a open kitchen closed philosophy in your
I'm
house?
not sure what that means.
It means that breakfast is at 8 to 8:30.
No,
No one eats before 8 and no one eats after 8.
no, we don't have that.
Okay. Do you eat? So you don't have that.
No.
So to lunch and dinner,
Yeah, I don't have,
snacks.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But it's usually because,
So-
well, at least what I attribute it to is not doing the regimented meals, right? So it's like, I don't really eat breakfast at a certain time and a certain amount. So I might grab something, but then I'm still hungry at 10. So
Right.
then I
So
have
what
to
I'm
get something
saying
else.
is,
Yeah.
is that in that assumption 3, you have control of when you grab even a snack.
Which is not necessarily true.
Right. So you're answering boredom, and I'm just using you. I'm not attacking you. I'm just saying. So you're choosing to eat when you're hungry, or for other faceted reasons.
But unconsciously?
Unconsciously, because what's happening is our brains,
Your lizard brain.
our lizard brains,
Says
whatever, says, hey, you know what, here's, I smell something. I see food, so I should eat it.
Uh-huh.
Like, there's donuts at work, so I might as well have one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So consciously, you think you have control of it, but actually subconsciously, you are not in really control of the situation.
So that's interesting because, like, just to relate a quick story, or not story, but whatever, is that one thing that I'd been trying based on some recommendations that I'd read was don't eat carbs in the morning. Wait, and don't eat carbs until noon or
Okay,
after,
all right.
So you're only supposed to eat like fruit and stuff in the morning,
Right.
like raw vegetables, and
Okay.
stuff like that.
All right.
And so I did really good on that for a few months. But I do feel like sometimes it's like I have the idea in my head that I really should only eat the fruit.
Right.
But for some reason, it's like I can't resist cereal or bread or some sort of carb. I
Right.
have to have it,
Right.
I don't know. Is that kind of like what you're talking about?
I
Like
think
how
so.
sort of unconscious, you have this need for.
I think
Because
it
carbs
grabs
use
the
the energy,
concept
right?
while there's some good things and bad. Obviously, remember the assumption is we have control,
Right,
and sometimes we don't. So most likely we don't.
right.
Like
That's
there's-
what I'm saying.
Yeah. So, but I get what you're saying. Okay. Fat stores. Okay. Fat stores. Number 4. We've already talked about insulin. So fat stores assumption. Fat stores are essentially unregulated, which by definition, why would there be only one thing in our body unregulated while everything else is? Heat is regulated.
Mhm.
Brain function is regulated. Everything is regulated. If it wasn't regulated, we'd probably fall apart.
Yeah.
We probably would have a terrible time in the bathroom.
Yeah.
So that is a horrible assumption
Okay.
that fat storage is essential, is unregulated. And we know based on the fact that we can regulate your fat storage by just giving you a hormone and insulin.
Oh, so we're saying, so we're basically saying that we think that fat storage is somehow only related to what I eat and stuff, but there's no internal process that's regulating it. That's what we think.
Right.
And then, but really, there is something regulating the fat storage
Oh yeah.
beyond what we're just.
Absolutely.
Okay. Got
Yeah.
it.
That's absolutely true.
Okay.
So, and then 5,
Wait
a
minute.
calorie is a calorie.
How can that be wrong?
Because
A calorie is a calorie.
remember macronutrient theory?
Well, yeah,
All of those are calories.
true.
If a calorie is a calorie, then just eating just carbohydrates, you should lose weight. Or just eating protein, you should just lose weight. Or just eating
Oh,
fat,
so-
macronutrient, you would gain weight.
So the point of this one is to debunk theories that say only eat protein and don't eat
Right.
any carbs,
Right.
like 0 carbs and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
A calorie is not a calorie.
Right. Okay.
So carbohydrates, you can't just eat a low fat diet. Like when you see those average, for the longest time, that when the Food and Drug Administration created this concept that the food pyramid,
Right.
they eat more of this, eat less of that.
Right.
Yeah.
There was a conspiracy about that, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's for the farmers or the bread industry or
Right,
something.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we want to throw out the concept that a calorie is a calorie. So if it's a calorie isn't a calorie, then if we did calories in, calorie out on a basic day and tried to lower our caloric intake, we would have a major problem, because if we lowered our caloric intake to 500 calories, but it was just Twinkies, we would have, it'd all be processed carbohydrates.
Okay.
Or if we just took in, just eggs or just, but that's not the point of it. The point is that different macronutrients cause different insulin spikes.
Oh.
So a fat technically doesn't cause the insulin spike that a piece of fruit does.
I see what you're saying.
So fats don't cause that insulin spike. What a piece of fruit would.
Wait, you're saying fruit would cause an insulin spike, and we know that the insulin spike makes me gain weight. So you're saying the fruit's going to make me gain
Right.
weight?
So here's the great
Okay.
and unique truth. The causal nature of the high fructose corn syrup.
Oh no,
Yeah,
that's horrible stuff.
it is, but I bet you it's in a lot of your foods, a lot of our foods. Okay, so the use of high fructose corn syrup in our diet directly tracks with obesity rates rising in industrialized nations. I can show you a graph. So here is, I don't know, people can't see it, but here is a wonderful graph.
Okay.
Here's 1961. Here's the use of high fructose corn syrup. Of the total fructose.
Okay.
Obesity prevalence.
Okay.
Slowly, gradually going up. Free fructose. High fructose corn syrup.
Okay.
All right. So what this graph is showing us is that we had total fructose.
Why the huge spike in the 80s?
Notice
The correlation, you mean?
the correlation.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying why it went up really sharply in the 80s and then went up slower afterwards. Is that
Yeah,
because
'cause
people got more health conscious?
Well, we were producing the stuff,
Right.
and we were putting in our foods, and then we
Started to wise up
yeah
in the
started
90s?
yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, here's an industry that comes along and says, "Hey, we've got a brand new sugar, and we're going to put it in our foods, and it's highly available. It's really cheap."
Hey, do you think in like 20 years, xylitol is going to be the new
I don't know. What is
metric?
that?
Oh, it's one of these sugar replacements.
Okay.
The Nouveau, sugar
All right.
replacement.
Let me say this. There hasn't been yet, and I don't know about xylitol, but there hasn't been yet a sugar alternative that does not cause insulin spikes.
Okay.
So you can have a caloric reduction diet, drink Diet Coke, and still gain weight.
Interesting. So regardless of, okay, so let's say sugar itself had like 500 calories, but the same amount of like stevia has like 200 calories.
Right.
So, but then you eat the stevia, you have less calories, same insulin spike.
Correct.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why people that are
Still gain weight.
still gain weight while drinking
Okay,
diet sodas.
Sure.
So
So wait, does that mean it's not really helping me at all to put stevia or xylitol in my coffee?
no,
As opposed to just regular sugar?
right. Why are you wasting your time?
Wow.
Sugar is,
Uh-huh.
there's three sugars, right? There's sucrose, glucose, and fructose.
Okay.
Those are the three naturally occurring sugars.
Now fructose sounds the healthiest. Because it sounds like I'm about to say fruit, but then I don't.
Let me say this. The chapter
Uh-huh.
14 in this book
Uh-huh.
is literally called The Deadly Effects of Fructose. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's why it's high fructose corn syrup.
Listen,
right?
I'm not in any way ever going to say don't eat an apple.
But it does have natural sugars.
But it has a sugar that occurs naturally in fruit.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the crazy thing. All right. So, oh man, I'm not good at this. All right. So if you can imagine a glucose molecule.
Okay.
A glucose molecule is a six-sided molecule.
Okay.
Okay. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If we do a search, you can find the molecule arrangement, and glucose is a six-sided arrangement. You'll find that in all carbs, rice, everything, all, and there's just, rice is just chains of glucose. And fructose is, and by the way, glucose can be used in every cell of your body. You take sucrose and glucose, and you put it in your coffee, and you could just, your body can use it anywhere, anytime, right out of the intestines and straight into the bloodstream. No problem, no issues whatsoever. Fructose, unfortunately, is a five-sided molecule.
Okay.
The way it's described, okay. So fructose, the most dangerous sugar. So glucose, a sugar with a basic molecular structure of a six-sided ring, can be used by virtually every cell in the body. Glucose is the main sugar found in the blood and circulates throughout the body. In the brain, it's the preferred energy source. It's just like, I got glucose, I got power.
Okay.
You got the lights on in the brain with glucose. Muscle cells would generally import glucose from the blood for quick energy boost. Certain cells, such as red blood cells, can only use glucose for energy. Red blood cells can only use glucose for energy. Glucose can be stored in the body in various forms, such as glycogen in the liver. If glucose stores run low, the liver can make new glucose via gluconeogens. By the process, there's a process to make new glucose in the liver. Fructose, a sugar with the basic molecular structure of a five-sided ring, is found naturally in fruit. It is metabolized only in the liver. It does not circulate in the blood. The brain, muscles, and most other tissues cannot use fructose directly for energy. Eating fructose does not appreciably change blood glucose levels, but glucose and fructose are single sugars, both glucose and fructose are single sugar or monosaccharides. Table sugar is called sucrose and is composed of one molecule of glucose linked to one molecule of fructose.
Really?
Sucrose is 50% glucose, 50% fructose. High fructose corn syrup is composed of 55% fructose, 45% glucose. Carbohydrates are composed of sugars. When these carbohydrates contain a single sugar monosaccharides or two sugars disaccharides, they are called simple carbohydrates. When many hundreds or even thousands of sugars are linked into long chains, polysaccharides, they are called complex carbohydrates. We've heard all these words.
Yes.
We know all of them.
Complex
all right.
Carbs are better.
So where does fructose fit in? Fructose does not raise blood glucose appreciably, yet even more strongly linked to obesity and diabetes than glucose. Remember, the book says, fructose does not raise blood glucose appreciably, yet even more strongly linked to obesity and diabetes than glucose.
Is the reason that that statement is there to say that in general, blood glucose can be generated or raised by things other than glucose?
Right.
Okay.
So the liver can raise blood glucose levels.
Yes, I caught that.
Glucose itself, a sugar found in, rice and other things, when the intestines decouple all those sugars, rice and other foods can find glucose. But fruit, a predominantly fructose, the sugar found in fruit, called fructose, is predominantly only processed by the liver, which then can be turned into glucose.
Oh, I get it.
All right, so
Yes.
This is my favorite part of the book. This gets down to the core. Before we get to the final conclusion of how
All
we
rice,
solve
no fruit.
All right, no, please no. From a nutritional standpoint, neither fructose nor glucose contains essential nutrients. As a sweetener, both are similar, yet fructose seems particularly malevolent to human health. Fructose was previously considered a benign sweetener because of its low glycemic index. Fructose is found naturally in fruit and is the sweetest naturally occurring carbohydrate, what could go wrong with that? The book says, what could go wrong?
Eat tons of apples. I mean,
The problem, as often is the cause, is a matter of scale. Natural fruit consumption contributed to only a small amount of fructose in our diets, in the range of 15 to 20 grams per day.
Yeah.
Things begin to change the development of high fructose corn syrup. Fructose consumption steadily rose until the year 2000, when it peaked at 9% of total calories.
Oh, wow.
Adolescents in particular were heavy users of fructose at 72.8 grams per day. Remember, we were taking in 15 to 20, and now we were taking in 72.8.
Wow.
Yeah. High fructose corn syrup was developed. Remember, high fructose is 55 fructose, 45 glucose.
Right.
High fructose corn syrup was developed in 1960 as a liquid equivalent to sucralose. Okay, so here's the thing. It takes, I loved when my dad and we would get some oranges and we'd squeeze them.
Yeah.
But when you squeeze oranges, how many oranges does it take to fill up a glass of making a glass of orange juice?
If you want a good sized glass, it might take you 3 or 4.
Right.
Yeah.
So try to eat 3 or 4 oranges, or try to eat 1 glass of orange juice.
Right.
Like it says, it's a matter of scale. Now I'm probably preaching to the choir, like eat fruit, but eat it whole. Skip that whole aisle of juice.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's where that part of the story comes from. It's like, but you have to, avoid high fructose corn. But overall, what is still causing, it doesn't cause, how do I say this? Let me say this. High fructose corn syrup does some amazing things. All right.
Amazingly bad thing.
No, it does some amazing things. In the processed food, high fructose corn syrup found a natural partner. And so I'm not demonizing because, and I'm saying, food producers should just stop using it. We just should need to be aware of it. In processed foods, high fructose corn syrup found a natural partner. As a liquid, it could easily be incorporated into processed foods, but its advantages did not stop there. Just consider that it is a sweetener. It's sweeter than glucose, all right? It prevents freezer burn. It helps browning. It mixes easily. It extends shelf life. It keeps bread soft and has a low glycemic index. So, I mean, when you tell a food producer, hey, by the way, you probably should stop using high fructose corn syrup, then it's like telling them, hey, you know what? You should probably get rid of your refrigerators at your plant, because it does good things.
Sounds like it.
So, I mean, maybe that's why they were using it. It's not a conspiracy, because it literally does some good things to preserve food so that we have more food later on than we have to produce it every day. And so some of those things are, some of those things are not conspiratorial. They are intentional.
One of the things that kind of struck me when you were talking about moderating fruit intake was that it's true that, like, historically, fruit was a lot more of a delicacy than it is now. It was a lot rarer.
Yeah.
You weren't like pouring apples down your throat back in the day. It was like you might get one and, be excited about it. And then like a week later, maybe you get another one.
Yeah.
It wasn't as prolific. Like now we're just being shoved fruit all the time.
And with the lack of refrigeration, it was hard to get.
True.
So, until industrialization, which would also include the creation of a refrigerator, we would have a hard time having access to fruit year round.
Okay.
All right, so then what do we do? How do we regulate insulin? How do we lower, get these hormones? How do we stop? How do we get in control? How do we make sure that we don't care about calories anymore? How do we control our metabolic, if we have no control over these things, what do we do? Well, one of the things we can do as humans is we can do something called fasting. Stop eating.
That's just crazy talk.
No, it's not. Until recently, until recently, and recently meaning in the last 50, 60 years, fasting was a normal thing. And so
among everybody, or just in certain situations?
No, in cultures around the world, as a health tradition, fasting has a long history. Hippocrates is widely considered the father of modern medicine. Among the treatments that he prescribed and championed were the practice of fasting and consumption of apple cider vinegar, which I'm not going to come into.
Seriously.
I'm not going to talk about apple cider vinegar. That's a whole nother.
Well, that's a big fad thing.
Yeah,
now.
it is a fad, but it's actually not a fad. It's way back in the day.
Wow.
Fasting for spiritual purposes is widely practiced for the longest time. Muslims, Christians, Judaism, Hindus, but Buddhists, very common practice.
Definitely aware of that.
Muslims use, and this is the crazy thing I never understood, Ramadan, not in the winter when it seems logical to have a fasting during the day, because why would you want to eat? Why would you want to use the time of the year when the sun is the most out? Ramadan is in the middle of June, July, right?
I don't know.
Okay, so it's in the summer.
I'll take your word for it.
This is summer season.
Sure.
Ramadan, in the Muslim tradition, nobody eats during the daytime.
Yeah, but they eat at night.
Then they eat at night.
Yeah.
Then they go to sleep. Then they wake up, and they do it all over again.
Yeah.
So they only eat at night.
Yes.
So they fast all day.
Yeah.
It's a very common practice. That intermittent fasting is part of this fasting concept.
Oh, like it's not permanent necessarily? Like Ramadan is like, what, 40 days or something?
Yeah. So they do it for a time period.
Okay.
It's very common. That's my point there. Fasting, this is the great news. We were talking about insulin resistance. Fasting is the most effective and consistent strategy for decreasing insulin levels. A fact first noted decades ago and widely accepted as true. All foods raise insulin. Therefore, the most effective method of reducing insulin is to avoid all foods.
There you go.
Blood glucose levels remain normal as the body switches over to burning fat for energy.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, what about that thing where they talk about like putting your body into starvation mode or whatever? Is that
Are
part
you
of
talking about ketoacidosis?
Oh, I don't know what that means.
That's what
but-
keto. That's
No,
the,
no, I'm talking about
Yeah.
like on purpose, like where you like I thought maybe that was part of the whole fasting thing was.
So two studies I'd like to bring up. This
Okay.
no. First study done in 1944, 1945. They took a bunch of guys with the same age, pretty much in the same age group, same about, height ranging and stuff like that. And they put them on a caloric reduction diet. Some things that happened while they were doing that caloric reduction diet. One, they became utterly obsessed with food, utterly obsessed. They were stealing cookbooks. They were, they would talk about food. They would think about food. Another thing that occurred is that their body temperature regulation became really odd. One man was described as saying it was a hot, warm summer day, and I needed to wear a jacket. There's a correlation.
Is that whole thing about where like you're not taking in enough calories, so like heat production goes down,
Right.
and therefore you might be cold.
Right. So one of those things the body can do to make it so you need less, it has less basal metabolic rate, is to say all those functions are regulated. So if it's regulated, it can regulate. The best example is, let's say I have a coal plant and I get 2,500, pounds of coal a day to burn in the coal plant. And if by some reason I've reduced that coal, the amount of coal that I get on a daily basis down to 1,400, I'm not going to burn 2,500 pounds of coal on a regular basis. I'm going to have to reduce my burning to 1,400 to keep producing the same, the same electricity. And so if I don't have enough energy, obviously my engine is going to reduce the amount of energy, of coal it uses.
Right.
If I don't have enough coal, then So basically there are things that the body says, okay, well, we're getting less, so we're going to do less. And it takes time. It takes about 2 weeks for your body to adjust to that. But over time, your body will adjust. For some reason, studies have shown, and it may be because your insulin resistance goes, most likely it's your insulin resistance that goes down, is the reason why, we don't have that same reaction when we do fasting. So in 1960, Dr. Garfield Duncan of Pennsylvania Hospital in Philadelphia described his experience with the use of intermittent fasting on a treatment of 107 obese subjects who had been unable to lose weight with caloric restriction, had lost hope and agreed to try fasting. One patient started off at 325 and taking 3 blood pressure tablets. Over the next 14 days, he would subsist on nothing but water, tea, coffee, and a multivitamin. He found the first 2 days difficult, but then his astonishment, his hunger simply vanished. After losing 24 pounds in the first 14 days, he continued with shorter fasting periods, losing a total of 81 pounds over the next 6 months. Surprisingly, he had a sense of vigor during the prolonged periods of fasting. A sense of well-being was associated with the fast. Instead of cold in the middle of the summer, vigor. Like there's a moment of euphoria. There are, physicians advocate fasting as far back as mid 1800s. In modern medicine, referencing a fasting can be found as early as 1915, but there it seems to fall out of favor. In 1951, Dr. Bloom of the Piedmont Hospital in Atlanta rediscovered, in quotations, fasting as a treatment for morbid obesity. Others followed, including Dr. Duncan Dietrich, who described their positive experiences in the Journal of American Medical Medicine. In extreme cases, in 1973, a physician monitored a man during a 382 therapeutic fast, originally weighing 465 pounds. He finished his fast. He did monitor during a 382 day therapeutic fast, originally weighing 456 pounds. He finished his fast at 180 pounds.
Wow.
No electrolyte abnormalities
Wow.
were noted throughout the period, and the patient felt well throughout.
So are these fasts the same notion as what you were describing about Ramadan, where you fast during the day and eat at night?
Those can work as well. This is extreme fasting. This is tea, coffee, water. This is nothing over 50 calories in a 24-hour period.
But you can't live.
You can.
How?
Nothing but water, tea, coffee. You can live
No.
without eating food.
But
It is a breakthrough paradigm that I'm trying to get everyone to understand.
No.
That is
Well,
really
what do they tell you when you're in the wilderness? You can survive
on water alone
for a while.
for a while. You have to have food after 7 to 14 days. Most likely people in the wilderness die from dysentery, not from lack of food. And most of Western culture are in the obese category. If you look at the bell curve, most of us are overweight. So put most of us in the forest, not the people that are walking the forest, that are super skinny because they've been out there forever, because they're on, they're just walking through the forest, whatever. But, just a regular camper, and usually it's kids or it's, kids get lost. We're not talking about kids. Let me be very, very cautious. I should have said this in the beginning. Well, now that I'm talking about fasting, let me say this. Extreme fasting is not for anyone under the age of 25.
Oh, okay.
Let me be clear. Under the age of 25, your brain is still developing.
Okay.
And development of the brain requires glucose.
Okay.
It's preferred, remember I said, it's its preferred source of energy. And that's how it's going to build new synapses and stuff like that. So anything under 25, extreme fasting and the psychosis of being, like, what is it called? Not bulimic, but anorexic.
Uh-huh.
Now, those are two separate things. Anorexia is a psychosis, that's a psychological issue. Whereas fasting is mental control. It's conscious decisions. It's making good choices and then saying, okay, I'm not going to eat today.
But what about like nutrients and stuff?
Which
you have to have those?
No, your body already has them. Remember, it's very efficient at storing the things you need. If you want micronutrients, which are all the vitamins, then take a multivitamin while you're fasting.
So you're saying because you have all this fat already,
Correct.
it figures out to use that instead of new intake of food.
Yes. The new intake of
with
food.
100% efficiency.
The new intake of, yes. Yes. It takes a while to convert. I never said it would be like
Well, no,
making
you
a
did say,
switch.
like, what was it, 2 weeks?
Um,
Or was it 30 days? I can't remember what you said, but you did give it.
well, in the first, and by the way, the first fast is the hardest one. It is. But as someone does that, it gets easier. The first fast I did, in the 36th hour, I was very nauseous and I did feel sick. But I continued to push through because I believed what the studies were showing, that it was possible. I'm sitting here and I'm telling you that it's okay. It's okay.
You can just not eat.
I cannot eat. I do 3 days a week. I don't eat.
What?
I don't
Like
eat.
it all for 3 days?
No, I don't eat Sunday and Monday, and I don't eat Thursday. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
At all?
At all.
It's crazy.
I've lost 12 pounds.
In how long?
2 weeks.
12 pounds in 2 weeks.
Most of that's
good.
probably water,
Well,
and
always
it'll
is at the
change over
beginning,
time.
you know.
But yeah, I've lost 12 pounds over 2 weeks. Yeah. No sugar. So what I'm doing is I watch what I eat. I try not to take any sugar in. On my fast days,
Now, see, that's a tricky statement. So no created sugar, no like sugar. Like you take glucose and like the sugars in the food, right?
I don't know if this is an example of what everyone should do, but when I broke my fast, I had a salad with some dressing, some light poppy seed dressing that probably did have a little bit of sugar, but most of it was the salad.
Okay.
And I had green beans. Today I had for breakfast I had some flatbread, which had some sugar in it. But this is not a fast day, so the 2 other days, I didn't take anything, and I'm trying to get rid of the food that's in my house that I had before I decided all this. I don't drink any soda. I drink LaCroix or a sparkling water that has no calories in it whatsoever. I drink black coffee with almond milk in it. Low calorie almond milk.
This is on fast days or on
Coffee, you can drink all the coffee, tea, no sugar in the coffee. You can drink all the coffee you want.
Dude, what about
All the water you want.
but what about they scream
All
at
the
you-
tea you want.
Keep interrupting.
No sugars in them, of course.
But what about what they scream at you about coffee is acidic?
It doesn't matter.
That's not a thing?
If you're not taking any food, your body doesn't worry about it.
But okay, so that's what I was getting at. So what does a non-fast day look like?
So a non-fast day looks like conscious decisions to eat clean. I guess that's a very vague word, but some of the stuff I'm doing right now is just some chicken or like today I made this week. So one of the things that they were saying is, fasting, a practical guide. What can I take on in fasting? All calories containing foods and beverages are withheld during fasting. However, you must stay well hydrated throughout the fast. Please stay hydrated throughout the fast. If you're going to fast, your water is your best friend. Go buy 1 gallon, the whole 1 gallon, and your goal that day is to drink that whole gallon. If you feel hungry, drink water. If you feel hungry, yes, Absolutely. Every time you feel hungry, drink water. You're going to pee a lot. Don't worry. That's a good thing in this scenario. As a good practice, start each day with 8 ounces of cold water to ensure adequate hydration. Squeezing, you can put lemon. It's not over 50 calories. The key here is 50 calories or less.
For the whole day?
If you take in, no, if 50 calories, well, I mean, if you take.
Per thing you eat? Or
yeah, if you take in 50 calories in a 4-hour period, you are not breaking your fast.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And that's my rule. Okay.
Right. So is gum okay?
Gum is great. Gum is a good thing.
Okay.
But water is best. If you can do it on water first and get through the first few, but gum is okay. But it still might raise, but it's not going to be a lot of raising of insulin. It's just, it may settle your stomach. But, LaCroix, you ever heard of LaCroix?
Well, sparkling water.
Sparkling water.
Yeah, sure.
Avoid
but not the flavored sparkling water?
Avoid the one, look at the ingredients. Read the ingredients. What does it have in it? The green tea extract, I would only do that on days that I am not fasting.
Okay.
If you want to drink tea, green tea, make it and then chill it. Like, don't go buy the extract and then, because I've looked at the ices and I've looked at the other things, and usually in there, it says 0 calories on it. So there's very trace amounts of all that stuff,
right.
But you're just trying to avoid. So water, green tea, cinnamon's great.
Oh.
Cinnamon, don't not the sugary kind, just straight up cinnamon.
Just brown cinnamon.
Coffee. While many assume that coffee suppresses hunger, studies show that its effects are likely related to antioxidants. Both decaffeinated and regular coffee show greater hunger suppression than caffeine in water. Given its healthy benefits, there are no reasons to limit coffee intake. The caffeine in coffee may also raise your metabolism, further boosting your fat burning.
I've been off coffee for like a year since, because I thought it was good. I thought it was okay.
Yeah, this whole bad good thing,
Yeah.
It keeps going back and forth.
I know, but I mean caffeine.
Yeah.
Because I've been drinking decaf.
All right, something that's great that you probably never heard of: chia seeds.
I haven't.
Yeah, chia seeds are high in soluble fiber. Remember, fiber.
Can you eat them?
Absolutely.
By
You want to put them in water or in something.
Oh, you can put them in water?
Yeah, water. You can put chia seeds in water. And omega-3 fatty acids. These seeds absorb water and form a gel when soaked in a liquid for 30 minutes, which may aid in appetite suppressant. They can be eaten dry or made into a gel or pudding. I wouldn't eat them dry. No, I tried it dry. It's not good.
So when you said put them in water, do you mean that thing, soak them and make them into a gel?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
and then your
Not just
stomach
put them in
gets
water and then
full.
drink the water.
Your stomach gets full, but it's just soluble fiber.
Uh-huh.
And so if your stomach's full, then that hormone stops sending. You stop being hungry. Yeah. All right. So one of the things that I experience that I would like to let everyone know, I get headaches when I fast. What can I do?
Uh-huh.
As above, try increasing it says cramp. It was talking about cramps before, but try increasing salt intake while I know it's crazy. Salt's bad for you, right? Salt improves water.
Retention.
No.
Removal. Okay.
Yeah.
It's something.
Try increasing your salt intake. Headaches are quite common the first few times you try fast. So the first few times, just expect a headache probably into the 36 hours. It is. That's true. That's true. But now your stomach is empty, so if you take Tylenol, so I would recommend a gel capsule, like Aleve.
What if you take prescription medication that you're supposed to take with food?
Then take a small amount of 30-calorie almond milk and drink that with your pills,
Oh, and that'll be
which
good.
is what I do.
Okay.
It is, but that's 30 calories. I mean, that much in a glass
Uh-huh.
is maybe not even 30 calories, but it's a whole bunch of liquid. And then you can drink it with, you can do it with LaCroix too. It is believed they caused by the transition from a relatively high salt diet to a low salt intake on fasting days. So that fluctuation from high salt to low salt.
That's good.
Headaches? No.
Oh.
No, you're just trying to lower your salt,
Okay.
not delete salt. Headaches are usually temporary, and as you become accustomed to fasting, this problem often resolves itself. In the meantime, take some salt, some extra salt, in the form of broth or mineral water. My stomach is always growling. What do I do? What do you do? I already told you.
Eat some food.
No.
Um,
What do you do if you're fasting and your stomach is growling?
Drink water.
Ding, ding, ding!
I learned.
There you go. Yes.
What chia seeds in that?
Yes, and okay, I take medication with food. What can I do during
Yeah.
fasting? Certain medications may cause problems with an empty stomach. Aspirin can cause stomach upsets, even ulcers. Iron supplements may cause blah, blah, blah. Please discuss whether or not these medications need to be continued with your physician. Also, you can try taking your medication with a small serving of leafy greens. Blood pressure can sometimes become low during the fast. If you take blood pressure medicine, you may find your blood pressure becomes too low, which can cause lightheadedness. Consult your physician about adjusting your medication. All right, let me just say this. After listening to this video, well, let me just say this. If you decide to fast, the number one thing I would say is do it. Try it. Just try it. What's the worst? I'm telling you right now, I'm not a doctor, but I'm sitting here and I'm fasting. I do fasting. All right. So I'm not dead. So you're not going to die. All right. So just try it.
So you've done, but the way that you described it with the 3 days a week thing, you haven't done like.
I haven't done extreme fasting because
Okay.
intermittent
So
fasting
intermittent.
is working for me.
Okay, got it.
And it fluctuates.
So what you're doing is like would be called intermittent fast.
Yes,
Okay.
it works for me.
Okay.
5-2. I call it a 5-2 or a 3-3-4.
Okay.
So 5-2 meaning that 5 days a week I could eat. 5 days a week I could eat food, and 2 days a week I choose not to. But I add the Thursday because I also work on a Thursday. If I didn't work on Thursday, the best day to fast is a day you work. Okay, so yeah, so fasting works. You should really try it.
Mhm.
Like, and there are, I think we went over the fact that there are some things that you might be concerned about, but yeah, just go ahead and try it for 24 or 48 hours. The first time may be hard, but it can be at the end of the day, at the end of the process, it becomes very rewarding. If you have a scale in the house, weigh yourself before you start, and then when you're done with the process, weigh yourself at the end before, and see what that difference is. Most of that may be water weight on the first go through, but it's not going to kill you. You need to drink water, and you can drink some other non-calorie containing beverages. Herbal tea is one of the nicest ones you can drink. Herbal tea, green tea, black tea with none of those having sugars in them.
So no vanilla chai lattes.
No vanilla chai lattes. That would be quite a big mistake on that part. So yeah, so I would just say surprise. Healthy choices include since that was the topic that I presented as healthy choices, one of the healthy choices you can make is not to eat for a time period.
Wow.
So-
Or indefinitely, apparently.
Not indefinitely, you're gonna have to eat at some point,
Yeah, I think that we should,
but for a time period.
right.
Yeah.
And then if your body runs out of fat to consume,
Right,
that's when you die,
that's when you die.
right?
Yes,
But not before,
not before.
just from not eating, because
Right.
your body's smart and it
Correct.
knows to use the fat.
Right,
But important rule, stay hydrated.
stay hydrated, that's correct.
Yes.
Please drink water.
And water somehow helps you not feel full, not feel hungry,
Right, it shuts off that hormone.
which seems magic to me. So
Yeah.
what about putting salt in the water?
In everything you drink, probably not,
I
but
didn't say everything.
just in the water, maybe a little bit. Just
Okay.
take a little bit in your finger, put it in the water, and let it be in the water a little bit.
Is there benefits or drawbacks to different kinds of salt?
No, salt is salt.
Salt is salt.
NaCl,
salt,
NaCl.
Pink Himalayan salt, table salt, ionized
Many
salt.
of those,
salt.
many of those items have a higher or lower content of minerals, which don't
Ah.
do anything at all,
Oh.
but mostly the NaCl in those salts are what you are going to absorb.
Okay.
I mean, your body does absorb minerals, but it's a whole another, that's a micronutrient.
And so you should take a multivitamin.
You should take a multivitamin.
Okay.
You don't want to eliminate micronutrients from your body.
What about other supplements? Because one thing that I've been doing, this was in conjunction with that thing I mentioned about not eating carbs before noon, is that in the morning, the type of drink that you're supposed to make has 3 primary ingredients. It has, well, now I'm going to forget them all, but it has 3 supplement ingredients: wheatgrass, and 2 other things. Also, cacao, and a 3rd one. Should you not have those?
I don't know,
Okay.
but if you are
If they have
going
more
to
than
take
50
it,
calories. No.
yeah, that's the first thing.
Okay.
You need to look at the ingredients. If they are ingredients that are, ginkgo biloba or some type of over-the-counter herbal supplement that
Right.
has
These were all herbal.
that aren't, that are like supplements that don't really have, science-based, human-based studies to prove whether or not what they really do. And it's just, then I would say try the fast without it.
Mm.
And then later on, do your own personal study and see what happens if you take it. Because most herbs that are in the non-Food and Drug Administration understood groupings,
Mhm.
these haven't been, studied, but are drugs that either have a placebo effect or they have an effect on you in a certain way, but not on somebody else in another way.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely true.
And the only way to find that out, how it works in you, is to use them in a controlled environment.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I might try fasting,
It will work.
but
Yeah.
not today.
Not today. And anybody who's trying to think about fasting, but says I don't want to do a full 24 hours, skip breakfast.
Even though it's the most important meal of the day.
That is another one of those assumptions that should be up here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
If you're not hungry, let me be more specific. If you're not hungry, don't eat. If you're not hungry, don't eat.
But what if you like the taste of something? You're not hungry, but you enjoy the taste of it.
If you're not hungry, don't eat.
Okay. Gotcha.
And lastly, please enjoy Thanksgiving responsibly.
Oh, nice. Yes, right before Thanksgiving. This is our
Please
episode
enjoy
right before
enjoy
Thanksgiving. Fast.
No, don't fast on Thanksgiving. That is being responsible on Thanksgiving. It is always important to experience life's experience with other people. And I think one of the last things that I would say is, if you choose to fast, do it, but don't talk about it with other people, because like Ed here, he thinks I'm crazy.
I do.
So,
but it has nothing to do with you bringing up
Oh.
the fact that you're fasting. I mean, this just more fuel to the fire. But
right, I
already
get
did
it.
that.
Yeah, I get it. People will tell you you're crazy, and they will discourage you. And remember, we are not in control many times. And if someone else has decided to tell us that we're crazy, we might think we are crazy. And we might take in food, which is on our fast day. So that would not accomplish our goal.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to keep it on the DL
Exactly.
because, you know. if
When you show results,
Yes.
then you can let everybody know.
Right. Because if you had led with, I'm going to tell you about fasting.
Right.
Oh, no one would have played.
No, everybody would have turned it off, right?
No, you have to give the results. You have to build your assumptions. It's good.
Break down the
Yeah,
assumptions.
break it all down.
Yeah.
And so what's the book again?
The Obesity Code by Jason Fung, MD.
And I can attest that it has lots of interesting graphs and charts in it that you
Yes.
didn't get to see.
Right.
But it's very sciencey.
It's on it. The whole book is on Audible. I am not asking for any revenue from this. The other great thing about this diet plan is that you don't have to buy any bars or shakes.
Oh.
No one's
That's a
telling
good
you to
point.
buy anything.
It's telling you basically don't buy anything.
Don't buy
Not
anything.
even food.
This is the best diet plan you could possibly.
It's the cheapest.
It's the cheapest, best diet
most
plan.
economical
You will
diet.
save money fasting.
That's
You will
amazing.
save maybe $100 a month fasting.
Wow.
As long as you don't buy food and it goes bad in your fridge because you fasted.
Right.
Like,
you got to adapt. Learn
you
how to
gotta
adjust.
adapt,
Adjust
yeah.
down
Right,
what you buy in the first place.
right.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think it's one of the best diet plans I've ever found. Life-changing, lifestyle-changing plans I've ever found.
How long have you been doing it? Just for the 2 weeks or longer?
I tried fasting 2 months ago. Then I went on vacation. It wasn't fasting, and vacations do not really go
Even
well.
dieting and vacations don't.
Yeah, they don't. That doesn't go
Yeah.
well. So
both years, I've tried certain diets and certain lifestyle changes or whatever in both 2016 and 2017, and my downfall was always vacation.
yes.
Yes.
So you have to make a commitment. Okay, I'm back from vacation. I'm going to fast.
Yeah.
I'm back from vacation. I'm back on my program.
Yeah.
I'm done with that family event. I'm back on my program.
Yeah.
I'm back on my fasting initiative. If you stay consistent, a few days of good high caloric intake will not ruin your fasting commitment, because while you're fasting, your insulin resistance goes down. So when you start eating again, you still have that insulin resistance. A long progress. The way we got fat is we got fat over a long period of time. The way we lose weight is we lose weight over a long period of time. And so we're creating new pathways And that's why I talk about in the beginning, I talk about that little program weight, is that we're going to change, you can change that weight that your body is set at by lowering that insulin response. And fasting will lower that insulin response very, very fast and very easily.
Awesome.
So, all right, well, that was my presentation.
Well, thanks, Mark. That was
Yeah.
some enlightening information. I would never have guessed that the healthy choice you would recommend was to not eat.
It's amazing.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm going to try it. And you should too.
Yes.